I love Pokemon. I truly do. I grew up with it and it has contributed to who I am as an adult. My fascination with biology, language, and nature came from studying and learning about Pokemon. Seriously, read Pokedex entries, talk to townspeople, and read the placards for exhibits in Pokemon's museums. You will learn a lot. I could not recommend Slateport's Oceanic Museum enough. Given my experience with the series, I'm qualified to give the opinions I will be giving in this video. This video is going to be about quality and player experience. The quality of Pokemon games have improved so much over the years, but at the same time, some things feel much worse. Game development is hard, and when games get more complex, they need more time or more collaborators. I completely understand that. However, there are a lot of decisions made in the series that are simply baffling. Decisions that didn't make sense in development, still didn't make sense in quality assurance, didn't make sense in release, and didn't make sense when they brought it back for another generation. I'm talking about that kind of baffling. The latest mainline game, Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, released in November 2022, and as of this video's creation, September 10th, 2023, has had 6 patches. It's been almost a year without some of these being changed, so there isn't much of an excuse. In this video, I'm going to go over a few things that I really miss, want changed, want fixed, and want removed. Naturally, because we're talking about things that I personally find bad or obnoxious decisions, I might include stuff you actually liked. And I might not bring up something you don't like. I didn't forget. We're different people with different experiences and different brains. So it's natural that we'd have different levels of tolerance. That's how the world works, right? Remember, this might be an off-the-cuff rant fest, but I still adore Pokemon. I just want the clunkiness and tedium gone so I can properly do the things I actually enjoy, like battling, catching, trading, and teaching. Let's start with the map. My goodness, the map is terrible. In-game maps have existed for a very long time, to grant a sense of direction and relay objectives to the player. 2D or 3D, hallways or open fields, there was a map. Gigantic open-world games aren't new. We've had them for a decade. We've gotten to the point where it's normalized enough that everyone can jump on the bandwagon, even Pokemon of all series. So if it's a bandwagon and pretty standardized, how are we messing up simple implementations like a decent map? The problem is that it feels slow and clunky to use, which is a no-no in gaming, but especially in an open-world game. Some games address this by having an option that allows you to adjust the cursor speed on maps, but Scarlet and Violet do not have that feature. There are 4 levels of zoom to look at your map. A slider would be nice, but zoom levels can work in a game provided that the levels are properly spaced. Oh, they aren't. Let's go over them from the most zoomed in to the least zoomed in. The most zoomed in level is completely fine. I can see all the paths, town, roads, shops, terra raids, and other features easily. I've never had the situation where you try and look at something on the map, but it's so close to other icons that your cursor just snaps around to everything around the thing you actually want to look at. Excellent job. The next 2 levels of zoom are gradual zoom outs that show you more of the map, though it would be nice to be able to check out all the terra raid dens and mass outbreaks at a glance. Let's zoom out a little more to speed that up. Well, zoom out one more time and look at that, a satellite view of Paldea. Don't you think there should be a level or 2 of zoom between these 2 zoom levels? At first I thought that this was jarring, but I figured that at least I could zoom back into the area I wanted to see. Well, I was wrong. If you zoom all the way back out and move your cursor somewhere else to zoom in, it doesn't zoom in there. It zooms back in where you were originally looking. A map shouldn't do that. I get that the max zoom level is supposed to be some kind of progress and goal screen as well, but a map should work properly before you add that stuff. Especially a map like this that isn't even full screen. Look at games like Breath of the Wild. It's got a nice clean map, you can zoom all the way in, all the way out, the cursor is pretty quick, you can see all the shrines, whether you completed them or not, regardless of zoom level. Even Skyrim has a better map, and I only know that game because of memes. Please add extra zoom levels, a faster or adjustable cursor speed, and lastly, allow me to make the map the default. All of these little details aren't the end of the world, but in an open world game where you constantly need to fly back and forth, constantly getting items, constantly crafting TMs, needing to go to Pokemon centers to recharge the Terra Orb, having to go to Medali to change Terra types, having to go to Montenevera to use bottle caps, it becomes so grating and tiresome. I hope the DLC areas have an area where everything is right there, like what they did in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. In those games, in the Battle Resort, there were tutors, an IV judge, a daycare, and a special mechanic where you could hold one direction and the camera would automatically turn so you could hatch eggs easily. Sure, they added some slow sand pits in the way, because every quality of life feature requires obligatory clunkiness and tedium in a Pokemon game. but it is what we got and I'll take it any day. That flows excellently into my next problem, the load times. I get that some areas and cutscenes take time to load, but that doesn't explain how long it takes everything else to load. Why do the Pokédex books need so much time to catch up to load in the pages? Why do the icons for Pokemon in the boxes take so long to load? It takes so long to find anything or look through captured Pokemon because of how slow it loads. Recently, I got the event Mew and started trying to find it in my boxes, then was reminded of the slow icon load time, so I gave up and tried searching. Well, they didn't add Mew to the search function, so I had to go through my boxes and slowly wait for the icons to load in and figure out which random slot in my boxes that Mew was dropped in. Switch to the new box, loading icons, then checking. Switch to the new box, loading icons, then checking. Why is it like that? Sword and Shield and Pokemon Arceus Legends wasn't like this. The older games weren't like this. And don't even get me started on the long AFK sessions and raid battles where everyone's just sitting there feeling like the game is frozen. I'm telling you, everything has a delay in load time to it and I'm sick of it. It might sound like I'm nitpicking, but really consider it. Imagine if your computer and cell phone always had a delay when typing. Every single time you type anything at all, it takes 10 to 20 seconds for the characters to catch up and load in. Imagine being 3 minutes into a video trying to type a simple comment like, I don't know, something like, "You forgot Landorus, it's one of the best ground types to ever exist." That sentence isn't very long, it should take 20 seconds tops to type. And that's being generous and assuming you had to quickly try Googling Landorus just to make sure you spelled it right to avoid being melted in the comments for a minor spelling mistake that didn't really matter. Because of the delay from loading the characters, it takes an extra 15 to 20 seconds. In that span of 40 seconds total, you hear, and that wraps up our list of completely unviable ground types in competitive Pokemon. Like and subscribe, and realize the video's already ending. The point is that it shouldn't take that long to do a simple task. Delays like that add unnecessary time to simple tasks. Digital tasks are fast. They are done in the spans of seconds and minutes. These delays should not be that frequent. The Terra raids are pretty laggy too, but I'm not completely sure how much of that is Pokemon's fault, the Nintendo Online service in general, or the other players in raids. Especially considering my raid partners could be some kid using McDonald's bathroom Wi-Fi, a dude baked out of his mind just trying to relax, and some other people across the planet experiencing a storm. Oh, and the clothing options in this game, I completely forgot about that. It's such a pain to scroll from item to item, waiting for items to load in just to choose between clothes. I've completely given up on bothering to shop for clothes in this game because it's not worth the time. I forget what everything looks like by the time I reach the bottom of the list, so it's impossible to decide. When things aren't taking forever to load, it's a long delay between everything. Every character and every dialogue needs to slowly rotate, take slow steps, and have lengthy animations to do everything. It's all unskippable and can't be sped up. There's no meaningful option to disable all that. You know the book for catching a new Pokemon? I thought, and still think, it's cool and satisfying, but after 200 times, maybe I don't want to see it anymore? Maybe I'd like to have the option to catch a Pokemon without seeing that because I'm recording or have limited playtime. Everything again is in stark contrast to Pokemon Legends Arceus. There's so much I love in Scarlet and Violet, but my goodness is it slow. It just felt better to play PLA, well outside of dialogue and cutscenes. Oh, and speaking of cutscenes, this is a problem in a lot of games, but games need to stop doing the thing where there's a billion cutscenes in a row, and in between each one you have to take 2 steps into the next one. Why? Exiting a cutscene, then giving me control so that I can walk forward a step to talk to someone right there isn't gameplay. Pokemon games have been doing that more and more, and it's just so annoying. Just make that one big cutscene. That way all the people who care can read it all at once, and the people who don't can mash A while scrolling on their phone or something to get past it all. Okay, this one is a small one, but still annoying. If the Rotom phone can fly on its own, so much so that I have to slowly watch it pop out and float around in unskippable cutscenes, then why is taking selfies so annoying? And no, I'm not suggesting that they add a selfie stick. If they add a Rotom stick, or a Roto stick, or whatever they would call it, it would be worse logic. The Rotophone should just be a free camera so you can take a photo with all your big Pokemon and see your own body. Pokemon Legends Arceus did this just fine with their photo room, so it can't be a hardware limitation. The lack of a better photo system is why all YouTube thumbnails using characters end up looking the same. Speaking of things Pokemon Legends Arceus did amazingly, could we please get the shiny Pokemon audio cue for overworld Pokemon? That was a really helpful feature to have in a pretty open world game, and it makes no sense for it to not be here. No, having 2 development teams isn't an excuse. Even if you split the teams for development, a good idea is a good idea, and you should be communicating. I'm basically one of 2 IT directors at my organization. Whenever we are developing systems or databases, they tend to be different for different departments. Whenever there is a feature that is useful in general, we contact the other team and suggest that implementation. If one client database for surgeons can autofill necessary data and they love it, why would we not make the database for accountants also autofill some necessary data? Pokemon seems to do this a lot, where a great idea that can basically be copy-pasted is mysteriously removed, especially when it's even more needed. Having a shiny audio cue would be extremely useful in Scarlet and Violet because it has a bunch of microscopic Pokemon like Flabébé and a ton of those terrible shiny Pokemon that are 1 hexadecimal digit apart from the normal form, or even Pokemon that do both like Tandemaus. Isn't Pokemon for everyone? Sorry, colorblind people and otherwise visually impaired people. Sorry, people who need to blink. Sorry, people unlucky enough that the first Pokemon of a species they saw in the overworld was shiny. You all need to be the descendant of a Sharingan user and a Byakugan user to shiny hunt some of these Pokemon. Were you thinking breeding eggs would be an easier way to get those hard-to-see shiny Pokemon? Absolutely not! Breeding is somehow even more tedious. The current breeding method requires you to have a picnic with Pokemon in compatible egg groups. Then AFK until enough time has passed. There's no notification, you just check a basket over and over for an egg. If you're breeding just to get a baby Pokemon for the Pokedex or a baby starter to trade, this is fine. As soon as you decide to do something like breed a shiny starter or Pokemon that can't be found in the wild, good luck. You will sit here in a picnic AFK waiting for eggs. Then once the basket reaches a cap of 10 eggs, you take the eggs out, then leave the picnic to hatch them. Since it caps so fast, you can't truly AFK. And since you have to stay in a picnic, you can't actually do anything valuable with your time. I hate when games force you to do something that isn't gameplay and isn't a cutscene but still needs full attention. Like those stupid walk and talk gameplay sections in action games that should be a cutscene, but is actually just you holding up for 10 minutes. How did they make it worse? At least before, if I was hatching eggs for shiny Pokemon, the daycare was producing eggs while I hatched them. Yes, I know there are items that make mass competitive breeding less necessary, and that sandwiches make shiny overworld Pokemon easy to find. But the point is that making and hatching eggs is still tedious and it was poorly designed. The only thing that isn't worse is that it's free and can be done almost anywhere on the map. Those benefits aren't worth it outside of the early game. Again, I miss how it was done in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The Battle Resort Island was perfect, except for these slow sand pits in the way, that Pokemon only placed here because Pokemon mandates inconvenience in anything that brings joy. The next part is going to be me lumping together the problems I have with the options. First off, why is there no option for battles to be in set mode? For those of you that don't know, Switch mode is the default single-player experience, where you are given the chance to freely switch Pokemon when fighting trainers. Set mode mirrors how playing against another real person works, where you do not get free switches when knocking out a Pokemon. People often play on set mode because it's more challenging to have to switch manually. Other people do it because the game is faster when you aren't asked to switch after every KO. For example, if you want to AFK grind the tournament at school, you have to go with only one Pokemon, specifically so that the game doesn't ask you if you want to switch. All because you can't change the game to set mode. It doesn't make sense. Set mode is something that is already part of online battles in VGC. It's in the game and intentionally disabled for single player for no reason. It was obnoxious of them to change it and they should add it back. I know they copy and pasted a bunch of code, so just code set mode in campaign to equals true and call it a day. While you're at it, please in the name of all that is holy, let me skip battle animations again. During normal gameplay, I love looking at animations. So many of them are iconic. Like Generation 3's Ice Beam and Brick Break were so clean. Any animation and sound effect from Generation 3 tickles my brainstem. Obviously, getting updated and more extravagant animations is really cool. It's like when a book or a manga you like gets properly adapted to a movie or full anime. You're so excited to see it scaled up, you want more. Yet, when I'm forced to always keep Pokemon's animations on, I feel less excited and more annoyed. It feels less like a book becoming a movie and more like a 4-hour meeting that should have been an email. It's like when my mom leaves me a 10-minute long voicemail that could have been a text that says, "Get milk." Turning off animations was a nice option to have, and I almost always used it grinding. Please let me skip the egg hatching animation. I'm tired of having to see it. And no, contrarians, skip cutscene isn't actually effective as an option because almost everything I don't want to see doesn't count as a cutscene. Lastly, please allow me to turn off automatic experience share. It's not about difficulty or anything, it's about choice. Whether you are a tryhard or ultra laid back, sometimes you want to have the option to have something in your party and not let it level up. Sometimes I forget I have a baby Pokemon in my party. Sometimes I don't want to give random EVs to Pokemon. Sometimes I just want a choice. There are certainly things I can do to avoid these problems, but again, it's about choice. I'm not saying to remove the experience share from the game, I'm saying to give players the choice to toggle it. And if you think a tiny choice is bad, you're objectively wrong. Pokemon is aware that all the extra menuing is annoying. I will absolutely commend the fact that they allow you to turn off the prompt to learn new moves, you can still automatically send to boxes, you can turn off the nickname option, and all of that. I'm so glad we get to skip all that if we want. Seriously, all the notifications in Pokemon games tend to feel like all the cookie policy pop-ups you get on every website now that block your screen and add an extra step to something you wanted to quickly Google. It just feels like every other game series adds quality of life features and keeps them in. Pokemon games, on the other hand, clearly have a wait system because as soon as the game adds quality of life features, they have to act like 5 to avoid being encumbered. They act like if they have anything more than 10 convenient features, puts them in a higher tax bracket and loses them money. I'd really like to know why they're like this. Why can't the features they already designed be copy-pasted forward? Oh, speaking of copy-paste, let me mass release from boxes in Scarlet and Violet. You can make it a separate box function so that it's harder for people with bad reading comprehension to accidentally delete Pokemon they want. I'll allow some safety nets, but please, make it possible to do in Scarlet and Violet base game specifically. The last complaint I'll make for now is this. Allow me to place cherry tomatoes flat side down. What kind of psychopath places cherry tomatoes in a sandwich bosom down? It's nonsensical and a shadow nerf to bug types, truly. That just about covers the main things that annoy and confuse me in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. There's a lot of baffling decisions that seem to have easy fixes. The decisions that don't have easy fixes should be refined in the future games. A lot of the problems that get me the most heated about Pokémon are things that they have clearly demonstrated that they are able to do and solved years ago, but then just stop doing it for no good reason. Like a grown woman that suddenly stops using toilet paper or a bidet, and suddenly starts turning all the hand and face towels brown. Sorry, that's gross, but proves my point. It's baffling and irrational. Anyway, I'm going to go on to try the Teal Mask DLC when it comes out, because, as you should be able to deduce, I record these videos way earlier than they release, given how much I fight with the audio. So if things I mention in this video end up fixed in the Teal Mask, then that's great. I'll see them when I play it myself. I'm pretty sure I'm as excited to play it as some of you are. It'll be nice to see another region's legends and lore, because I'm kinda tired of Pokemon stories where you fight the same like 2 trainers with mediocre Pokemon over and over with basically nothing meaningful in between. For now, I have a question for you all. What is the most annoying feature or decision to you in any Pokemon game that you've played? It doesn't have to be competitive or even from a mainline game. For me personally, it's all the shiny locked gift Pokemon with no in-game events that will never have me as an original trainer or my preferred Pokeball. Let me know your gripes and complaints in the comments. That's all. Bye!